Okay, all right, excuse me. I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. It isn't 5:10 p.m., but what is it? Something like that. Close enough. 5:07. Any introduction of late items? No? Mr. Fernandez, did you have any late items? Okay. Approval of the agenda as presented. Councillor Wamaka, Councillor Sandu, all those in favor? Public input on agenda items only. I forgot to say the First Nations, sorry, because you already said that. I'll just mention, we acknowledge with respect and gratitude to the Suboxet First Nations who share these lands with us, where we live, work, and play in harmony. So public input on anything that is on that agenda tonight. You have 3 minutes, your name and address, and come up to the aisle, please.
I'm going to talk as fast as I can. It might be 3.5 minutes. My name's Nadine Reeves and I live at 200 Oak Lane. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the new BC short-term rental legislation and how it may affect Lake Cowichan. Firstly, let me voice my disappointment at the fact that no public forum was ever held that would have allowed citizens and business owners of Lake Cowichan to come and speak freely about short-term rentals or lack thereof in our town. A short-term rental host sings the praises of Lake Cowichan, pointing them to the best places to eat or shop in town. A host will point out the tubing and the hiking trails. A host will invite the guest to enjoy the Honeymoon Bay Saturday Market or any events happening during their stay. Hotels do not have the time to sing those same praises. I have read and reread the provincial legislation and it brings more questions than answers. The Minister of Housing has stated in the media that more exemptions are coming. The legislation could be repealed or could be thrown out if a new government comes into power in BC. The new provincial legislation will hurt tourism, especially in small tourist towns like Lake Cowichan. It will cause many hosts to simply close up shop, since the legislation will force hosts to register for a new provincial registration number, and with that number, a host's information will be shared with the CRA. Prince George City Council voted unanimously to request to opt out of the act altogether, even though there is no mechanism for that. Any town under 10,000 people can only opt out of the provincial residency requirement, not the legislation. The only entities that the legislation does not apply to are hotels, motels, RVs, tents, and other temporary shelters. Lake Cowichan Council at its meeting in March passed a motion to opt out of the exemption for the primary resident requirement. In other words, you opted into the primary resident requirement. If that motion stands, any non-primary resident short-term rentals, including VRBOs, Airbnbs, and bed and breakfast in Lake Cowichan, would be going against the legislation. Even though this legislation has been in the media since November 2023, no information has been shared with short-term rental hosts and no public consultation meeting was ever held. Hosts have bookings for summer 2024 already. There is no mechanism to cancel a booking if it is a month long without a huge fee charged from Airbnb to the host. Tourists will turn away from BC out of confusion. If Lake Cowichan opts into the primary resident requirement, the short-term rental landscape of Lake Cowichan will change. I understand that one of the goals in rushing to opt into this residency requirement is to shut down short-term rentals that are not the host's primary residence. While that looks great on paper, shutdowns won't happen for months. The provincial government will look up the listings and determine if it's a primary resident of the host. The province states that they will then deal with that by having the platform get rid of the listing. Airbnb and Verbo probably already have lawyers lined up to fight this. If push comes to shove, the provincial legislation could cause some of these platforms to simply remove themselves from British Columbia, as they have no interest in losing money or doing extra work. A short-term rental host is a renter if a short-term rental host is a renter themselves elsewhere, they can still claim that the short-term rental house is their primary residence and that they live there 6 months plus 1 day of the year, even if it happens to be in the winter. This legislation will fix some problems, but it will bring new problems. The only things that this council can speak to are opting in and out of the primary residency requirement and business licensing. This council spoke to issuing business licensing to their hosts. The legislation states that the business license number only needs to be added to the platform listing if the municipality had previously been issuing business licenses. I believe that the town council should take a wait and see approach before rushing in to amend the zoning bylaws. With or without a business license number on the platform, the provincial government is eventually going to look at these sites. And if they're supposed to have a business license, the provincial government will simply send a list back to the local municipal government. And then the onus is on the local government to then communicate with the platform to have the listing removed. Why not wait this one season and see how this issue plays out? See how this legislation evolves and changes. Nothing is going to happen for months and months anyway. Our own bylaws can eventually speak to primary residents. The business license aspect of this should be done, but not in the hurried manner that it appears to be heading. Let the 2024 season happen as it is and communicate with the public about what you're doing. If a host does not get a business license, it will take you months and months to get that information back from the province. So take your time, talk to other municipalities, see how things go in Tofino or Comox or Prince George or Yubo. You must do this correctly and with the interests of the town in mind. Rushing to come under the provincial or under the principal residency requirement or rushing to issue business licenses is not going to fix any problems this year. Not every host can or wants to make their space a long-term rental. I don't even have a kitchen in my short-term rental, so I cannot accommodate long-term renters in any fashion anyway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, thank you. Number 5, minutes from our last meeting, which was March 12th. It's just for information only. Was there any business arising from that? Anybody see anything? No? Okay. Delegations. We have 2 delegations tonight. The first one is Zoe Lochner. Take a Hike Youth Mental Health Foundation, Cowichan Rio Grant Aid request. We have 10 minutes to do your presentation, and we will make decisions tonight. They're discussed at the later meeting.
Before you start, Madam Chair, I'd like to welcome alternate director for the Regional District, Nora. We have met previously, but welcome to Lake Cowichan.
Thank you, Mayor McGonigal. I'll start my timer because I want to be cognizant of everybody's time today. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have my back turned to some people. Heitsepka to everybody for having me here today. It is a great honor. My name is Zoe Lochner. I am here today representing Take a Hike Youth Mental Health Foundation. I am the manager of philanthropy for our Vancouver Island programs. More importantly, I'm a Cowichan Valley local, born and raised. I am a 3rd generation uninvited settler to this region, and it's a great honor to do this work for this organization in this region. We have 5 programs on Vancouver Island, but today I'm here focusing on our Cowichan program, which of course accepts youth from the town of Lake Cowichan, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But first, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself, because I have 10 minutes of your time, and that is a great honor. I am 32 years old. As Mayor McGonigal mentioned, I have just joined the CBRD as an alternate director for Area E. I sit on 2 boards, including Cowichan Hospice. I'm an avid volunteer in my community, and I'm a single mom of a 7-year-old boy. And while that might sound like a lot, what you probably don't know about me is that I dropped out of high school in grade 10. And by the age of 13, I was deeply disconnected from my school community, from any positive role models in my community, and was already connected with substances, experiencing mental health challenges, and having a really tough time in my life. I was very lucky to have certain adults in my life who, throughout my journey, saw a value and worth in me that I didn't, and reflected that back and empowered me to change my life. But the reality is, many youth don't have adults in their life like that. So at Take a Hike, what we do is we work with kids like the kid that I was. It's no surprise to anyone in this room that we are experiencing a mental health crisis. Youth, especially, are experiencing this in a disproportionate way. 70% of adults had their mental health challenges emerge before the age of 18, and yet only 1 in 7, as kids, only 1 in 7 will get the support that they need. And these stats were all prior to the pandemic. So as you can imagine, it's much more dire, and the need for fulsome mental health supports is even more important today than it has ever been for young people. Interestingly enough, school connectedness is the #1 determinant of mental health for young people, more so than family or friends. And so this is where Take a Hike Foundation grounds our work, is inside schools. So we empower youth experiencing vulnerabilities in a full-time mental health and emotional well-being program embedded inside an alternate education classroom. So we engage youth between the ages of 15 and 18 inside an alt ed classroom, which for School District 79 is at the Cowichan Valley Open Learning Co-op in the city of Duncan, which is the alternate education program for all of the school district. And we partner with school districts in order to have that physical space provided. They provide a teacher, a youth and family worker, and Take a Hike layers in program elements that are beyond what the school district can offer. So we actually embed a full-time registered clinical counselor inside that classroom to work with those youth throughout 3 years, grade 10, 11, and 12. Together with our school district partners, we empower youth with the skills and resilience they need to navigate any of the turbulence of youth and later adulthood. So I mentioned that we work with youth who are between the ages of 15 and 18, and a few of the statistics around who these kids are, and I'm sure some of you know them, perhaps you have them as your children or your grandchildren or your nieces or nephews. We all know that youth is a challenging time of uncertainty and trepidation. And in the current climate of society, mental health challenges are on the rise. 87% of the youth that we work with come from families experiencing significant financial need. 78% have already diagnosed or emerging mental health conditions. 30% are struggling with substance use. 15% are currently or have previously been in foster care. And 35% of youth in our programs self-identify as Indigenous. These are just a few of the vulnerabilities I can speak to, having had the honor of spending a significant amount of time in our Cowichan program with those youth, which by the way opened in 2021. Cowichan is an interesting community in the sense that what we see with the youth participants is increased acuity in psychiatric challenges. We do a lot of work with hospitals because we have a lot of kids going in and out of hospital due to mental health and substance use. There's a lot of self-harm. There's a lot of anxiety. There's an incredible amount of suicidal ideation and suicide attempts. And so this is a bit of a picture of the kids that we're working with, kids who very likely would have dropped out of high school or had already done so. And so we work to re-engage them in this program, provide them with full-time mental health support inside the classroom. And then we layer in what we call land-based learning. We live in such a beautiful place. The Cowichan Valley is incredible, as you know. And it might be surprising that a lot of the kids that we work with have never actually been outside of their home communities. And so we have the incredible privilege of once a week taking this group. And by the way, they're all together, despite the different ages and grade levels. They're all together in this group. So that consistency of the cohort and the staff is really important. And once a week, we get to take them out on the land and do land-based learning. So we're really weaving in the academic curriculum, following all the BC curriculum requirements to graduate, into whether it's hiking, kayaking, whatever kind of outdoor recreational opportunities we can, weaving that into the academic learning with the counselor on board so that there can be that therapeutic support as well. And I don't know if you've ever sat in a therapist office face to face across from the therapist asking about your feelings, but it's not really the most accessible way, especially for youth who don't even want to walk through the door of a normal therapist office. So to be able to walk up Massachi Mountain, for example, next to a clinical counselor and slowly open up about what's going on in your life makes this model so impactful and really makes the mental health support that we provide so much more accessible to the youth in our programs. But these vulnerabilities that these kids are experiencing, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's really, really hard, or if you've ever been in a traumatic or scary situation, it's hard to listen and learn and remember well when you're in that fight or flight mode. So what we focus on is creating a really stable, solid relationship foundation among peers, among staff, so that kids can actually relax into safety and trust and re-engage in learning. There's lots of beautiful things kind of happening simultaneously in this program. But ultimately, we provide upstream preventative support in partnership with school districts. Take a Hike started in the year 2000 in Vancouver when one teacher was working with a group of youth and not really getting anywhere, and decided to take them outside and brought along a friend who was a therapist and started to see these incredible, incredible changes. And so in the year 2019, Take a Hike came over to Vancouver Island with their first program in Nanaimo 2 years later, we opened Cowichan in the year 2021. And since that time, Vancouver Island has become the largest region of our organization. We have 5 programs here. Now in the Cowichan Valley, average alternative education, so your mainstream basic alt education program, graduation rates are around 50 to 60%. Consistently in our Take a Hike programs, our graduation rates are 92% or above. So there's the academic component. We all know the trajectory of life is changed if we don't graduate high school. We all know that unmanaged mental health has a significant cost on communities, on families, and on the economy. So when we have over 92% of youth graduating high school, our alumni surveys have also shown that 85% of youth continue to see increased benefits in their mental health and physical health because there is that component of being outside on the land. And I should mention, in addition to the once a week out days, we have 2 multi-day trips a year. Last year, our Cowichan program was able to go on a 4-day tall ship sailing expedition. This is an experience like these kids would have never thought possible in their life. We partnered with Salts out of Victoria, and they were able to go and experience life on a tall ship for 4 days and overcome a lot of challenges, whether it's nicotine addiction. Turns out you can't smoke cigarettes on a tall ship. Who knew? Or working with their peers, or overcoming even things like a fear of the ocean together, this group. So that's one example. This year, there's 4-day kayak trips that are happening. So there's this really intentional outdoor component where you're leaving your phone at home, you're kind of letting go of those challenging coping mechanisms and learning new skills. These are transferable skills you can bring for the rest of your life, as well as just the confidence of being on the land and learning in that way. So because our organization itself has existed for almost 25 years, we have significant alumni data that shows the long-term impacts of that. And this is something that our organization is quite sophisticated at in terms of collecting impact data and looking at this in a long-term study. So we last conducted an alumni survey in the year 2019. We're in the process of doing another one now, but that 2019 survey showed that 70% of Take a Hike alumni went on to post-secondary education. 90% were employed, and 95% continued to see increases in their mental health and physical health. So in addition to those impacts, which you can imagine have a ripple effect, not only are we providing individual counseling for youth any day they need in the classroom and throughout the summer too is something that we also provide, but that extends to family members. So we do family counseling as well. The ripple effect of healing in communities is immense. We also conducted something called the social return on investment study, which from a government perspective might be interesting in the sense that this looks at, for every dollar invested in our organization, what is the social return on investment? And what that study found was that for every dollar invested in Take a Hike programs, society sees a return of between $5.60 and $13.40. And this is through a reduction in reliance on healthcare, hospitals, policing, criminal justice, as well as the increased contributions of society when youth graduate are healthy contributing members to society. So that's significant. So I'm here today, just about at my time. And I know that there is a grant and aid request in front of Mayor and Council for $1,500. And while our cohort, by the way, is 20 students in Cowichan, which might not seem like a lot, the reality is that social return on investment in 1 year from a $1,500 grant and aid is between $8,400 and $20,000. Not only that, but the difference that you're making in these young people's lives, which by the way, 12% of our current cohort are youth who live in the town of Lake Cowichan. That's 12%. And that could always grow. That's why we want to keep this program open. And I'm here representing Vancouver Island. Obviously, we are a provincial organization. I can tell you that my work fundraising for these programs on the island, we are not in any way self-sustainable yet here. And so we do rely on the support of local government, of local organizations, local community members to ensure that these youth have opportunities to change the trajectory of their lives for the better. And I am hopeful that we can partner with the town of Lake Cowichan to make that happen. So thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any at this time.
Is anybody at council table have questions? Councilor Maka.
Thank you very much. I was just gonna ask, if 12% of the youth are from Lake Cowichan, is it because they're attending school in Duncan that they have access to this program, or there's some here in Lake Cowichan, and how do they get there?
That's a great question. Thank you, Councilor Maka. So Take a Hike, our intake is anyone who is within the school district 79 who is eligible in this program. And so you can self-refer. Sometimes it's a teacher or a principal who's kind of noticing that a student isn't really thriving in the mainstream school. And so the alternate education building, which is at the CVOLC Center. Any student from Shawnigan, Mill Bay, Lake Cowichan would have to bus to that center to access alternate education. Take a Hike is one classroom in that building. And so youth from Lake Cowichan who attend the program in Duncan, they have to take public transportation to get there. And that is just, yeah, part of the kind of barriers to the overall geography and school district. That answers your question. Yes.
Mayor McGonigal?
Thank you. Through you, if I may, first of all, thank you for the presentation, very eloquently presented. We do have an open learning opportunity within Lake Cowichan School. So a number of those participants would be available for that program as well. Is that correct?
If they wanted to make that commute, if you will, and they fit into that program, the way that Take a Hike works is students really have to buy in, right? We're not forcing anyone's hand. And so if youth aren't really interested in the outdoor component or are a little bit hesitant for the mental health side, then they might choose not to. And so for the youth who I know personally who live in the town of Lake Cowichan, it was worth the trip for them to be able to have access to this program. Ideally, we would love to be in every community. But unfortunately, just because of financial reasons, we can't do that. And so this is where the location is. But if a student from Open Learning in Lake Cowichan was interested in that program and was able to make their way there, absolutely they could.
Just a comment, if I may. You spoke earlier about mental health issues within the adolescent population, and
Yes.
it's exponentially grown in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think part of the problem is this. But you also mentioned family counseling.
Yes.
Because it's not only the person that is suffering from that mental distress, it is incorporated throughout the family fabric, whether it be grandfathers or aunts or uncles, siblings. It's not just the one person suffering, if you know what I mean. So any opportunity to mitigate some of those stresses would accommodate healing to the whole family unit. So it's something that I have not heard of. And when we saw the grant application, Take a Hike, we were gonna tell you to take the hike. But
We get that a lot.
seriously, it sounds like an excellent program. I did a little bit of research and your numbers are staggering for success rate. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did talk to the principal here who said it's an excellent program. And the students are quite happy to be there and learn from anyone else. Councillor Sanders?
So if any youth want to come from Lake Cowichan, is their busing covered through, they'd get free passes through the school district or the CBRD or?
Yeah, it's a great question. Part of our program budgets is just extra material costs. So certainly if that was a barrier to youth, we would be able to provide for that. And interesting again, as I look at the stats across our island programs, which by the way is Nanaimo, Cowichan, Souk, Saanich, and the first Indigenous partnership with Stamanis First Nation, Cowichan youth continue to need the most material support. They continue to need the most hospital liaison support. They continue to have the highest psychiatric acuity of all of our youth. And I don't think this is any surprise to you folks who have been here for many years. So absolutely, wherever there are barriers, we certainly are able to provide that, including food, right? That is something that very beautifully, actually, the youth in the Take a Hike Cowichan classroom cook lunch for the whole school once a week. So there's a really strong collaboration piece there, which I think is important. And just to add one more piece is that I only learned this recently. Take a Hike alumni can come back 10, 20, 30 years later and get counseling support from our organization. And in fact, we see this now. And so this is more than, who goes back to their high school for support 10 years later? This really speaks to the quality of relationship and the longevity of that trust. So, yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience? No? Okay, thank you, Zoe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be discussing it in a few minutes, actually. Yes, later at the end. Our second delegation is Margarita from SAFARs.org, requested for B9 feeding stations.
Hi, nice to meet you all. My name is Margarita Dominguez. I live in 6651 Cowichan Lake Road. I moved here with my family a year ago. And I'm the co-founder of our group with a group of friends that we wanted to rescue feral cats because there were too many in Suk when we moved there. And we also had a pet food bank, the first pet food bank in Victoria. That is to feed the dogs of the homeless. And we work in Victoria, in our Place Society, Victoria Police Society, Salvation Army. We worked like that for 12 years, having 2 missions in the same time. And we learned over the years that when a group of cats come into town or people start dropping them, that's happening today because of the housing crisis. Sometimes it becomes unbearable because they keep reproducing over 4 times a year, they have babies. And what I learned from here is that they are not in the park exactly, but they are in the surroundings of the park. And they are breeding in people's homes. And this is going to be, if you let it go, in my opinion, my experience, is going to be a disaster to come. It's better prevent than healing. That is my opinion. I offer my services, that they are free. I'm not asking for anything, in the sense, because if I ask for money, I don't have the right first, because we used to be a nonprofit and a charity. We did all that, and we had no time to rescue when we did that. It was too much paperwork. It was unbearable for when you have a large group that you have volunteers, too many volunteers, but our work is in the field. I like to do feeding stations, like I explained. We have 6 feeding stations in Suk, Jordan River, Other Point, Port Renfrew. We work in Port Renfrew exactly. That is where we are presently working. And now they have a new chief in the Pachira, which means, well, this is what I am offering here, to get a new community of volunteers, try to gather a new volunteers, because everybody loves cats mostly, and then start creating a little place where they are, because the cats are going to find the place eventually. It's not going to be in the first time, but hopefully we have people that can bring one of the cats over there. We can trap them after spay and neuter and bring them to the place. And that's the thing. Now, as a rescue, we are a private rescue now. And the reason is because I lobby the government for animal change, no? And as a charity, we cannot do that. And there are political limitations. That's not a subject to discuss now. That is the only reason, but we continue to be excited the same. We have the same volunteers. We still have colonies in Suk and friends that they feed, and all is from us, from our group. And when you were talking, I thought that we work with children as well. And for youth is perfect. It's just teaching them to care for animals instead of just chasing the cats away, or just hurting. That's what I saw when I was a little girl, years ago. Nowadays, things can change. And we believe that this can be an improvement, and it's nothing. They can work with the sponsors. And as you see, this is the little print. We had hundreds of kittens that we rescue over the years. That is the little print, the 2 here.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, in the back, we have the story of each family that we rescue, each feral cat family that we rescue. And then, because obviously when you are a charity, you have grants. We don't have grants. And then we have to invent things to pay for the spay and neuter. And then we pay a lot of those. We have a bunch of those, and soon we are going to be launching the campaign for the spay and neuter. We are going to be selling them, and the part is going to go for the spay and neuter. And there you go. The only thing that I ask is, I had a video from YouTube, perfect to send you, but the thing is that YouTube video, I cannot put it in a USB, and you don't have installations here either. But if I can send you an email, the video via an email, I will. It shows exactly the feeding station and the houses can be donated by sponsors, and people from the community can help dig the holes, put fencings, whatever, something that can be nice and approved by your planning department. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. Do you have a vet, that you use here? Because we have a new vet in town, veterinary.
I asked this vet and they are new and I don't want to force. The problem is that they are new and they have spent a lot of money. They would like to help. I'm sure they already, Dr. Bell already told me that they want to meet us. Obviously, I am alone today, no, but we are going to come and cancel meeting more people. And then what happened is we have a vet that works exclusively with animal rescues. It's in Parksville. And it's perfect. And we are also going to do a clinic for low-income families. Soon we are going to be offering that. Even if we go to Parksville, that is exclusively for rescues. Yes, that is the only way that we can do it, because if not, the spay and neuters have gone raised to the sky, you know?
Councilor Sandu, did you have a question?
Just a quick, were you thinking of a specific location in the town?
I went to look, I saw the part where is that blue in the back of the, when you have the dog park
Yes.
going down there,
Yes.
that is the part that I think. I have to find a place that is not wet because I saw a lot of water. It has to be some elevation in the same time, but we can go with the planning department or you guys, you know, we can do around. I went everywhere. And the chain link that I saw is as soon as you enter, it's over there. And it's not serving for anything. It's just like right houses, but it's, and then I thought that we can use that, you know, and then find some guys that can help you dig the holes and put it, you know, everything that is free and, you know, there you go. And then, yeah, I thought in the back, there is a kind of, it's not a cabin, it's a, I don't know, it's a little house over there. I thought right behind there, you know, right behind there is now, let's say something like that. Oh, you're welcome.
Mayor McDonald?
Thank you very much. You say you have some in Souk.
Yes, yes, I have been working in Souk for the last 12 years.
Part of the concern that I have is attractants for other wildlife. For instance, we have a bear problem in the town of Lake Calhoun.
Yeah.
And we're doing everything we
The
can
bears, you mean? Yeah.
to mitigate the attractants for those. So I'm wondering about whether or not that would be.
The food is not going to stay out. The food is, that's why the feeding station is in generally what we do is we do kind of a two roof like that. And then when the volunteers come, the volunteers feed the cats. That doesn't mean that they are going to be the food left there. You know?
There's also another program in town, Sukasa,
Yeah, but they work with dogs mostly.
and I think they do some cats, but
Yeah, they have been helping because there was nobody here. And then when we came here, some people ask us, you know, I say, well, that's good that you came here, you know, but the last rescue that we did, we used to do huge rescues. And now I decided to, instead of continue doing huge rescues, like in Port Renfrew, we rescue 100 cats every year. In Port Renfrew, another in a farm, we went to a farm from a gentleman that his wife died. And then he didn't have the money to spay and neuter. And when we got there were like another 100 cats. You know, and that's how happened. The problem is that after that, people give the kittens away, you know, and that is a big mistake because those kittens, when they were born, they were in the mom's belly, they had nothing to eat. And then those kittens is just a veterinary bill, one after the other, which means if we can prevent that, you know, those are not healthy kittens. We have to prevent them from being born first.
so I was just wondering whether you had reached out to that organization and had a conversation with them.
No, because just came an article yesterday. She specializes in dogs. She brings dogs from California, I think so, no? I think so, yes, that's what I heard. I think that what I heard is that she can work with us. I have no problem with working with her. But the thing is that if, how I can say, if what I heard is that she was only helping out because there was nobody else to do it. That's what I heard. I don't know if that is true.
I would suggest that you reach out and just get confirmation on that, whether. it's-
Yes, and what do you want me to confirm?
Whether or not they focus on dogs, or if they do dogs and people. I would like to see a collaborative approach rather.
Correct, that's correct with me. If she wants to help, or I don't know, she wants, but I think so, no problem that we all trap together, that we all feed the cats together. In that sense, I think that's perfect. I will reach to her. Yep.
Excellent, thank you
Yep.
very much.
Okay.
We don't make decisions.
No.
No, of course. Okay,
Oh, we have. a
thank you.
question
No,
about
that
the
you
back.
can keep it. I get this. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Nadine, do you have a question?
Yes.
If I heard you right, you capture and spay and neuter,
Yes,
and then you put them back where you found them, or do you?
some of them.
So some of them you adopt out?
The ones that they are, for example, not all the cats that they are abandoned are ferals. There is a different, a cat is a stray cat. The stray cat is the cat that has probably abandoned, but it has been tamed before. It has been domesticated before, and then people dump them, okay? And then it becomes scared because it gets attacked by other cats, and then it's a stray cat. That is easy to domesticate and find homes for them, once that they are spay and neuter. And even the feeding station is excellent for that, because even if the cat returns, people, the volunteers can go and feed them, and people can fall in love with them and just adopt them.
So one of the problems that we have in our neighborhood, in McDonald and Oak Lane, there seems to be several people that have moved and they just leave their
Yeah.
cat.
Yeah.
And so there, right now, there's at least 4 right in our corner.
And
That
where do you live?
they live in places that new owners came and those, they don't want the new owners, it doesn't want the cat that goes with the house.
I know that
right?
it's here in town.
Yes, in town, so.
Okay, yes,
Yes,
well, it's
so-
exactly what I have been
Yes.
telling you.
So the problem is I have my own 2 cats and these strays or ferals or whatever they're called, I believe they're spayed and neutered, but they fight. They come in and they fight with our cats.
They are hungry, they are starving, they need help.
They don't.
That's
they don't
why-
look hungry. But I'm just saying, like,
Yes.
if you're spaying and neuter the cats, I'd like to see the cats taken off the grounds. I don't.
Everybody wants to take their cats, take the problem away. That's exactly the option that we are offering. You know, but it needs to be slowly, because a spay and neuter nowadays is very expensive. And then we are asking council to help us. We want to do a couple of bottle drives and food drives, you know, just to get some money, and you know what I mean, it's no money enough to spay and neuter.
What does SAFAR stand?
It stands for Sioux Animal Food and Rescue Society. When we first started the group, it was in Sioux, and that is the acronym. This registries allowed us to use the SAFARs.org instead. Okay, thank you very much.
Nadine. You can connect with Marguerite after too and connect with her.
Yes,
Where you
I
go.
will give you my card.
Okay, thank you so
I will
much.
give you my card. I will. Yes, okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, down to correspondence, begun. Finance and Administration, Director of Finance, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. So you have the statements prepared, for the 3 months ended March 31st, 2024. The 2023 numbers have not yet finalized. We're still working with the auditors on the asset retirement obligations part of that. And a meeting with the auditors has been scheduled for April 23rd at 4 p.m. to review the statements. The draft 2024 numbers are showing staff and council discussions to date. There are some numbers that are still coming available, like I just got CVRD and hospital requisitions today. We will bring forward the financial plan and tax rate bylaws to the April 23rd regular council meeting for first, second, and third reading. And just on a completely different note, the Lakeview Park reservation was opened for the second half of the season yesterday, and everything went really well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Gill? Councilor Sandu. Thank you.
A couple, on expenditures on page 3, for Public Works Administration, 2023 budget was 90,000. and the actual is 104,998. And for 2024 budget, we've only budgeted 58,000, but it states the actual to date is 98,970 dollars.
The recovery for the administration charges hasn't been posted yet, and that will post in May or June, and then we'll take care of that.
Can you explain that again? Sorry.
So, the administration charges, administration fees, so Public Works charges administration fees to the water and sewer funds,
Okay.
and the administration office charges fees to the Public Works. So once all the internal fees have been reallocated and charged, those numbers will, will drop.
My second question, with the pickleball courts, is there any funds remaining from the donation from a number of years ago?
For the
So,
pickleball,
pardon me?
for the pickleball?
Yeah.
I'd have to double check, but I don't think.
Okay, so now we're just budgeting accordingly. And is the pickleball court open to the public?
Supposed to.
Do we know if it is or isn't?
Well, I made that clear to them. Open to the public.
Under public health unit lease and public health unit expenses, basically we budget for expenses to what income we're getting for the lease. So in 2023, we spent $11,852. So what type of work is that? Is that?
Is anything to maintain the buildings there?
And there's no problem.
And one more question, if I may. Madam Chair. Yes. Rhododendron Park, so in the last 2 years, there's been a budget of 2,000, but we haven't used it. So is it a park that we don't maintain anymore, or
It is maintained by the
Communities in
Communities
blue.
Blue.
it's in bloom?
Yeah, and they do buy materials and they ask us.
So
for
that comes
money.
out of that if they
Comes out
need
of that.
anything. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's for peat moss and things like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Anything else, Councillor Lomaka?
Can I just get clarification on the grant and aid? On the draft budget says 4,000, but I thought that we had 3,000 available.
The 1,000 is for the, was it
It
that?
was increased last.
Yeah, because of council
That's
asking,
budget meeting.
yeah, you wanted it increased to 3,000, so the $1,000 is for the scholarship. We haven't broken that out yet.
Okay, and then we were also going to increase for next year's
Next
budget too, right?
So,
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Next is the Lake Coaching Building Inspector's Report. This is just for your information. Are there any questions on that? Okay. And the next is the CAO regarding Bill 44 and affordable housing. Mr. Fernandez.
yes, I'm just providing some clarification as to how Bill 44 is going to affect municipalities, those under 5,000 and those over 5,000. And it's actually going to affect us to a lesser extent. The only two issues that we would have to be dealing with is the permitting of accessory buildings in all zones, in all residential zones. And the other one is the having to do the housing needs assessment. We have to have it ready by January 1st, 2025. And so we are well on our way to meeting those two goals.
I think the APC is going to be working on the needs assessment. Mayor Longo?
If I may, there is a regional housing assessment that identifies the town of Lake Cowichan's needs within that. Does this need to be updated for ours specifically? Yeah, well, what happened last year was our planner looked at those numbers and he felt that those numbers were not accurate. So he came up with numbers that were quite different. So we will have to work together with CBRD on that. If I may just follow up, so in continuation, that would be an update of that housing needs assessment that resides regionally through our input. Yeah, correct, but the province hasn't given us the terms on which that study needs to be undertaken.
Okay, anything else? Oh, sorry. Just put your hand over there so I can see it.
It's just curiosity. So when I looked at that, it says that, I think it's near McDonald and Eva, that one on the corner is the original house, and then there's gonna be 3 little mini houses attached to that property. So is it one owner, one property of all 4 of those units? Or can it be like a strata?
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, is it subdivided into 4 actual
Yeah,
different properties?
well, the houses are, they're not subdivided yet.
Not yet.
No, they're sitting on one property with the 3 houses, I believe.
And then so it's one owner right
One
now.
owner, correct.
And so when I was reading this, and it was saying if you had a single residential lot and you could put, can't remember the acronym for it, but another one in there. So does that not become almost like a duplex as far as, taxation? Because you
Yeah,
have to have
well,
2
Yeah,
single
I
lots.
don't think the owner wants that. The owner wants to subdivide.
Yeah, but no, we're saying that when we open this up, anybody can apply for this.
So,
So anybody with a regular lot that
Yeah.
wants to put a second unit in behind, will that be, the taxation higher as if it was 2 units or a duplex, double garbage, double sewer?
all that, yeah.
All that would apply to those.
In fact, we allow that now. Some zoning, we do allow 2 homes. But this would mean, with under this legislation, it would mean that we have to allow it all.
Yeah, so if it's an accessory dwelling, that homeowner has to pay for that
All the
unit
services.
being there. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay, that was a lot of good reading there. I have to read the rest of that too, and, I'm sure we'll be talking about it. We're going to the ABICC on Thursday, and on Friday is a big housing, clinic, so there'll be a lot of information on that. And also the, Airbnbs and that type of thing as well. The Spirit Loop is next. Oh, what old one? Okay, let me know.
Just short-term rentals.
Oh, yeah, short-term rental for reconsideration, okay. Something there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I asked that this be brought back for reconsideration, given some reading within the policy paper and understanding that more regulations were coming. It didn't stipulate when. I think there is a bunch of confusion as to what happens when you opt into the primary residence portion, and that is all you're opting into. You're not opting into the denial of short-term rentals. We already allow B&Bs within some zones, which would accommodate that portion of it as well. I think with that coming down and the seminar coming at ABICC, that in my opinion, it would be prudent for us to pause this year to have a look and see what plays out with that regulation update, how we can reach out to other communities on licensing, for instance. I know that I had mentioned looking at all residential zones within the town. Maybe that is not appropriate. So I would suggest that we rescind motion R 0025-24 until further information comes from the province on the updated regulations and move from there. So I will move rescinding of opting in to the primary residence portion.
Any discussion?
And if I may carry on, I think it also would be prudent for us to return this to the APC for their input on which zones would be appropriate should we go down this road in the future. I think given that we're already in April and this isn't going to roll out till November, we have lost that timing or incorporating any bylaws, et cetera, that would have to be followed for the primary residence. It's just, in my view, another example of downloading from senior levels of government to municipalities and regional districts to do the work that they feel is appropriate for attaining more housing stock, but at the cost of our bylaw enforcement, of our administration enforcement, and inspections of those, for instance, to assess whether they are primary residents. So I think we, in good intentions, brought this forward in hopes that it would free up more long-term rentals. And perhaps all it will do is take away accommodation that is sorely needed in the West 3 or 4 location. I know Councilor Frisbee had some concerns, already being booked. And I've read that policy paper probably just as much as Ms. Reeves. And I'm still confused. So I think if we wait until those regulation updates are brought to us, the ABICC seminar, and perhaps put this forward to our June public meeting, which will have to be rescheduled to probably the 17th of June upon my return from FCM. We could have this as a topic and invite those who are within the short-term rental portion for their input as well. So in hindsight, I think after a 2-week pause, it's probably best that we pause this and inform the province that we will not participate this year.
Any further discussion? Councilor Belaka?
Now, I have a question to our CAO. Do you have any idea how many B&Bs are registered with the town of Lake Cowichan and their business licenses?
Yeah, we don't have that number. We could give that to you tomorrow.
Yeah, no, there's other ones.
Just B and B's, you know?
Yeah, just B&Bs, because vacation rentals are
Not big.
different. Because there seems to be a lot when you go on the maps, but that's why I wanted to know what percentage. If you have 140 in the Lake Cowichan area, you only have 4 that are actually zoned and paid business licenses. Is what I was trying to get at.
Thank you, Councilor Sandu.
Just through to the mayor, so what your motion was that we rescind what we motioned 2 weeks ago and that we sit, don't do anything for 2024, we wait for the full year.
Have input at the public meeting on this subject. That would be a topic that a number of people would be interested in. Reaching out to other communities that perhaps did participate this year. And what those regulations had an impact on their administration. Staffing.
Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we'll take the vote. Call the question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Are you in favor? Sorry?
I did vote.
Okay, so, okay, thank you very much.
And follow up, if I may, after that vote has been finalized, that if we could just encourage our staff to look at other communities that have opted in as to what process, and not, there's no time constraints on this, but as to what hiccups they had found in the smaller communities, tourist-based. I think there's going to be some exemptions coming forward in the new regulations for tourist-based towns, for instance. There's some confusion whether Parksville is residing within the exemption, etc. Some of the portions of the vacations along Vacation Row. So I think there's a lot of communities that are a little bit confused as to what the whole policy entails. So
Just to go on to that, I did look up Tofino and they have opted in, and there's quite a bit of information to Tofino. And part of Parksville, because they're timeshares there, and they're a little bit different categories, so We've been looking at short-term rentals since 2020. Actually, with the advisory planning group. Thank you. Okay, now what else am I missing? I printed this out. It's on. Okay, Spirit Loop is next. Any update on that?
I can give you that. I got to speak to Kenzie Knight of Couch and Tourism. And invited her to this meeting actually. And she said she couldn't make it. But at the same time, she indicated that she wasn't fully aware of what the Spirit Loop was. And she's going to meet with Donna Petrie of the city of Langford to get an update in June. And she can then come to the meeting after that.
Okay.
And she also indicated that she was willing to pay our share of the fee
Oh,
to
very nice.
be part of the Spirit Loop.
Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, next one, sunscreen use and associated risk. We have another little item on our agenda. Would you like to speak to that? Who wants to speak to that?
Just information here, and I think if you look at the last page, it basically indicates that the feds do regulate that, but I'm not sure how effectively they do.
Because our river is a heritage river and it's under the federal ministry. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Moving right on. You're on now. I think that was the end of that.
Imagine what your, and the intentions there were that the ban sort of more toxic chemicals going into the river in favor of something that's more environmentally friendly,
Yes.
like a mineral base sunscreen or something like that.
A question period is at the end, so I'll let you speak to that at the end. That's okay. It's just at the end. We'll finish this off and then we can discuss that at the end. Thank you. New business tour of municipal facilities, Mr. Smith.
I think in the last meeting, we discussed that perhaps we can let this go until June when we have some active groups, and I'll make sure that the groups are there to accommodate, so you can meet some people that come.
That would be fine. Yeah.
Making part.
So we'll just leave that on as he's coming and we'll get a date when it's time. Okay, thank you. Any notices of motion? For an upcoming meeting? No. Question period? It's limited to items on the agenda. For off-site, people can phone in at 250-749-3239. For in-person attendees, a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker if you want to come up to the front and give your name and where you live. You had a question? Yes.
Referring to me, oh,
Yes.
well, I didn't know how this comment, I don't really have anything in particular.
Oh, okay.
Add to this, but I just have a bit of concern. One of the things I was wondering is, I guess the focus was on administrative difficulties of short-term vacation rentals. But I actually live in Victoria, but I actually, it's interesting to see what's actually occurred there, because, these ramifications in terms of hotel expenses. I mean, because now there's not as much competition. Rooms have almost doubled in the hotels, and it's going to have some impact on tourism. In fact, I think what people are looking forward to, the only saving grace there is the increase in, cruise ships coming into Victoria because of accommodations. But I think that is a bit of a concern because it does impact tourism. People can't afford to say visit Victoria.
Vancouver's the same.
But that's just because the research written last year, the impact of not having short-term vacation rental. So, the hotel will work next, so we can charge whatever we might have. So it would be some sort of, be nice to have some kind of balance there.
Well, I think they're working on it, and we're going to our Association of Vancouver on Coastal Communities on Thursday, and on Friday, it's the seminar is on housing, and they're talking about all those different things as well as temporary housing and different things like that. So some of our people will be going to that, and we can talk. I've got the lady's name here. Hannah Rabinowitz is the Director of Housing Policy Branch, Ministry of Housing. She's a presenter, and she would be a good one who can talk to her about all these different things. I'm sure it's all the people from all of the islands and Powell River that will be there to talk to these people.
Thank you.
And that's in Victoria, so.
I'll definitely attend.
Yes, oh, I don't think you're allowed to, you have to be a delegate.
Oh, you have to be delicate.
Yeah, sorry,
I don't have sufficient time to get that.
we can report on that afterwards, but yeah, no, just delegates been advanced. But it'll be on the news and stuff like that. Yeah, you can stand outside and listen. Yes,
Got me up there?
yeah, well, it is better if you're up front, just no one can hear.
Okay. So I'm still Nadine Reeves and I still live at 200 Oak Lane.
Are you sure?
Yeah, with the cats. I have a question regarding the business license aspect of the short-term rental. So can I ask that question, even though Rosalind hasn't talked about too much? So when you buy a business license from the town of Lake Cowichan, it appears that your information goes up on their website. So Councillor Lorna was asking how many bed and breakfasts there are. I believe there's 5 if you look on the town of Lake Cowichan website. My concern with it is, has anybody ever looked into the privacy issue of it? Because for myself, if I'm a short-term rental host and I need to get a business license, I do not want my name, my address, and my phone number posted on a website. When we get guests through Airbnb and probably all the other platforms, they're vetted. So Airbnb has that person's photograph, driver's license, whatever. I do not want somebody calling me from the bar at 1 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, I can't drive. I saw your name and your address and your phone number on this site. Can I come to your house? So I would like somebody at some point, if it comes to issuing these business licenses, to figure out some way to protect privacy of the hosts as well. Question mark at the end. Yes, it wasn't really.
Go ahead, Mary.
I have posed that question with our CAO, with that very concerned about privacy issues on that platform. Whatever the platform is that those hosts use, it's imperative that the privacy of that host be vetted in something or redacted. So I have mentioned it, if we do go down that road, that will be something that will be looked at during the business license portion, if that is the road that they choose.
Because once my name, like my name in particular, once my name is out there, you go Google Nadine Reeves. Once your name is on a website anywhere, it's gonna come up. It's gonna say, well, here's where she lives, here's her phone number. So you have to also think about protecting women that maybe are vulnerable for whatever reasons. Somebody might be looking for them.
Yeah. Right.
Upon your return home, Google my name.
No, I don't, the other Tim was the wrong Tim. Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna, through to the mayor is, at the CVRD governance meeting last week, you guys were talking about even, people that come up at question period and ask and give their name and address. Should you be giving your address or just say Lake Hamilton? Like, should you leave, like, I don't want my
I was
address.
just gonna hold up my name and address today.
You could do
because I
that.
was scared of who might be in the audience today.
You could do that.
But that's something we should look at, like the CVRD is, just say, do they have to give their name, full name and actual legal address, or just name and like Cowichan or whatnot?
It's just to prove that you live in town because.
But again, it's
Yeah. I
privacy,
understand.
secure, safety.
But then your name too, you see, your name is wrong.
Even if we just set our box number, is that good enough?
I don't know.
We'll find
We'll
out, Steph will
figure
work
it out.
on that, and we'll, yeah.
We'll figure it out. Okay, anything else from anybody else? Nobody phoned in? Nobody's watching us? Oh, yes, sir. Would you come up to the front, please?
Sure.
I did do the phone number, yeah? Yes, sir.
So, my concern was with short-term rentals.
You
We-
should give your name at least.
Sorry,
please.
Mossman Road. And we've done short-term rentals on a part-time basis since we bought and built here 15 years ago. Now with all the changes and how do we do this and in our home and whether we can get a business license or we'd be shut down anyway, and we got renters coming. So we've ended up shutting down as of May 1st because we're uncertain. And I don't want to be in violation of any bylaws or anything. But there's no clarity. I don't understand. Can I really have it in my own home? Do I have to be there in my own home? Can I get a business license? I was told no. And you need a business license to be on Airbnb, so that my retirement plan is ending. So I'm not particularly happy with opting in on this heavy-handed legislation. I don't know if you opt in, can you actually opt out when you realize it's all gone wrong? Look at the real facts of the matter. Hotels win, tourism loses, economy loses, movie industry, short-term people that need insurance. There's all kinds of reasons for it. Now, if it's regulated and somebody's misbehaving, I know there's at least a bad apple or two. Then if there's a business license and have control, you can, like a bad person with a mechanic shop or a hairdressing shop, you can shut them down. You can revoke their license, so you have some control. You're also losing out on the fees for your business license and the taxes that's collected and we pay. We also pay federally and every other way, but it's an opportunity that you'll be losing. Sending people home that can't come again, that have been here for 8 years as a family. We rent out 5 weeks in the summer. It's our plan. And we are going to try to do it under Airbnb, just be it bed and breakfast, because that's zoned and allowed. But it's an inconvenience for everybody, and it'd be nice that we could do it legally, comfortably, and help the economy. We send all our people to the farm to table, which is shutting down. We send them to the pub. We send them to the river. Otherwise, all you're going to get is river people here, if that's what you want. And no tourism, no movie, no ecotourism, on and on and on. And we've been awesome hosts for all these years. And as my wife's about to retire in September, our plan for retirement income is pooched, and I don't know what, we are missing an opportunity to help the economy here. Thank you very much.
Just for clarity, tonight we opted out.
Okay. I was trying to get up from Victoria. I have grandson duties and I'm heading to my place, so I'm glad I got in here in the nick of time. Somebody posted that if you have a chance to speak, this would be your opportunity, and so I'm glad. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for opting out. You can always opt in if you don't.
Yeah, we can, and then you can always opt out too.
So we're looking for different information coming forward in the regulation updates, for instance, and in the provincial legislation that will accommodate that. So we have an election coming, as the speaker has stated earlier. If a different party happens to be the governing body, would they embrace this as their policy? So there is a lot of questions up in the air still. The business license portion does not apply at present. We're just investigating whether that's an option. Under either Airbnb or VRBO, you need a registration number from the province if you're involved in that policy, in that legislation. So we have not accommodated that currently for this year. Given that we're in April and people have booked, I think it's probably prudent to pause, take a second look, and see what the regulation update does.
Common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one more quick question, yes?
You need to be clear, we didn't opt out of the legislation, and I think that's
Of
what
the
he just,
primary residence.
that's all, yeah, nobody can opt out of the legislation.
No, just the primary.
Just the primary
Yes,
residence.
you can opt in, and it's not covered because we're less than 10,000 people and other things that are changing by the.
There is office of the primary residence requirement. Period.
So there's the confusion that it.
Yeah.
There's a
So
lot.
they're-
Still working on it. I
Absolutely.
don't have the guts to put my place or rent with the basic $3,000 fine per day.
There's no fine.
No
No,
fine.
don't worry about it. Not at the moment. Not this year. Right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There's no in camera. Yes. So no, election day by Councilor Mack. Oh, for